Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're staring at your computer screen. Maybe you hear this faint but kind of terrifying clicking sound,
Oh yeah, that sound. Never good.
right? Or worse, you realize some really important files have just, poof, vanished. It feels like your digital life is flashing before your eyes.
It's often the hard drive acting up. That's usually the culprit.
And the first instinct, for most of us, I think, is jump online, right? Search for a quick fix.
Absolutely. You'll find tons of advice out there.
But that's what we're diving into today. Because based on the info you shared, a lot of that easy-to-find advice, it can actually be the worst thing you could possibly do for a failing hard drive.
Exactly. When you're facing, potential data loss, that urge to find an immediate solution is so strong.
Yeah.
And the internet delivers loads of suggestions for reviving a dying drive. But what's, well, fascinating and potentially devastating is how many popular DIY methods actually lead to irreversible data loss.
Okay.
We really need to be clear about what might work, maybe, but more importantly, what absolutely doesn't.
So for this deep dive, we're tackling some of those common internet tips for rescuing data from damaged hard drives, especially those making scary noises.
Yeah, the clickers.
Our mission here is to kind of explain why these seemingly simple fixes aren't just like ineffective, but can actively destroy your chances of ever getting that data back.
Definitely. Where should we start? The freezer.
Let's start right there. That's a really persistent one, isn't it? The idea of freezing your hard drive.
It really is. You see it recommended all over the place online. Gotta click and drive, stick it in the freezer.
Okay, what's the supposed logic?
Well, the thinking behind it, flawed as it is that the cold makes the metal parts inside contract.
Shrink a little.
Right. And the hope is this contraction might free up a stuck read-write head. That's the little arm inside that reads and writes your data, kind of like a tiny record player needle.
Okay, I mean, it sounds sort of plausible on the surface. Things do shrink when they get cold.
It has that, kitchen science appeal to it.
But what's the catch? What makes this such a bad idea?
And the critical issue, the absolute deal breaker, is moisture. Condensation. Even if freezing somehow temporarily unstuck the head, and honestly, that's a big if. Think about what happens when you take it out.
It falls out.
Exactly. And as it warms up, condensation forms. Water vapor from the air turns into liquid water right inside the drive casing.
Which is normally sealed, right, to keep stuff out.
Precisely. Hard drives have these incredibly delicate electronic parts, mechanical components. Introducing moisture into that environment, it's asking for trouble.
What kind of trouble? Rust.
Corrosion, yeah. On those super sensitive components, it causes further damage, potentially permanent damage. So you might not have even fixed the original problem, maybe just paused it, and now you've added a whole new layer of water damage issue.
Okay, so short version, freezing sounds clever, maybe, but the moisture risk, huge. A definite no-go.
Absolutely avoided.
All right, so freezing is out. What's another tempting DIY path people find online?
The next big one is the temptation to open the drive up yourself. Take the lid off and try to manually move the read-write head.
Oh boy. Yeah, I've seen videos like that. They make it look almost straightforward.
They really do. But what those videos almost never properly show or emphasize are the critical dangers involved. It's incredibly risky.
Right, they kind of gloss over the tricky bit. So what makes cracking open a hard drive at home so problematic?
The number one enemy, the absolute biggest threat, is dust. Even microscopic dust.
Really, just regular house dust.
Absolutely. The internal components, specifically the platters, those shiny disks where your data lives in that delicate read-write head,
Yeah.
they operate with unbelievably tight tolerances. We're talking nanometers.
Wow.
They're assembled and sealed in extremely clean environments, far cleaner than any normal room. The moment you open that drive outside of a proper clean room, whether it's your office, your kitchen, wherever you're introducing dust, lint, skin flakes, all sorts of tiny particles.
And even one tiny speck can mess things up.
It can be catastrophic. If a particle lands on a platter when the drive spins up, which it needs to do to try and read data, the read-write head, which floats just barely above the surface, can crash right into that particle. It can physically scratch the platter's surface, gouging out the magnetic layer that holds your data. That data is just gone.
Ouch. Permanent damage.
Permanent data loss in that area. And beyond the dust, just physically trying to nudge or move that read-write head assembly yourself, it's incredibly delicate. You could easily bend it, break it, misalign it.
So it really is like trying to do brain surgery on your kitchen table.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. Yeah, the chances of a good outcome are practically zero.
And the pros do this differently.
Completely differently. Professional data recovery labs use what's called a Class 100 clean room. Or even better, it's a sterile environment where the air is constantly filtered to remove almost all particles. That's how they can safely open drives to work on them without causing more damage from contamination.
Okay, so lesson learned. Resist the urge. No matter how simple YouTube makes it look, don't open your hard drive.
Please don't. Just
Don't. Okay, freezing. No. Opening. Definitely no. What about some of the more forceful approaches I've heard about, like giving the drive a good smack or shaking it?
yes, the percussive maintenance approach. Unfortunately, the bang it or shake it idea falls right into the same category as the others. Maybe well-intentioned, but highly likely to cause more irreversible damage.
The idea is what? Maybe something's physically stuck and a jolt will free it.
That's the folk wisdom, yeah. But look, hard drives are precision instruments. They're incredibly complex mechanically. They are absolutely not stubborn old vending machines you can kick back to life.
Makes sense. So instead of unsticking one thing, you're probably just going to break something else entirely.
Exactly that. That read-write head we keep talking about, it's unbelievably fragile. A sudden impact can easily misalign it, damage the microscopic tip, or even cause it to slap against the platters, causing damage.
More scratches.
More scratches, potentially damage the spindle motor that spins the platters, knock other components loose. This kind of forceful handling is far, far more likely to worsen whatever problem already exists. It dramatically reduces the chances of successful data recovery, even for professionals later.
Right. So definitely no hitting, shaking, or dropping the failing hard drive. Got it.
Please, no. Treat it gently, even if it's already failing.
Now let's shift gears a bit. What about software? There's tons of data recovery software advertised online. Can that be a solution, especially if you're hearing those clicks?
Okay, software. Data recovery software can be really useful, sometimes essential, but it depends entirely on the type of problem.
Right.
It works best for what we call logical damage. So things like accidentally deleting files, formatting a drive by mistake, maybe some file system corruption, situations where the drive itself is still physically healthy.
But the clicking sounds, that's usually not logical damage, is it?
Almost never. Those clicking sounds, sometimes called the click of death, are usually a very strong indicator of a physical problem inside the drive. Most often, it's an issue with the read-write heads. They might be stuck, damaged, or failing to read the tracking information they need to position themselves correctly.
Okay, so clicking almost always means hardware problem, not just a software glitch.
That's a general rule, yes.
So what happens if you try to run recovery software on a drive that's physically damaged and clicking away?
And here's the crucial, often misunderstood point. When there's a physical issue, like a failing or stuck read-write head, the drive is already struggling, right? It's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Data recovery software, by its nature, needs the drive to be powered on and running, and it often needs to run for a long time, scanning the entire drive, trying to piece together files.
Okay.
Now, if you have a damaged read-write head that's clicking or struggling, and you force the drive to keep operating, keep trying to read, that damaged head can actually be scraping against the platters. Yeah. It can cause more physical damage, literally grinding away the magnetic surface that holds your data. The longer that drive runs in that physically compromised state, trying to run the software, the worse the platter damage can get.
And the less chance anyone has of getting the data back later.
Exactly. You could be actively destroying the very data you're trying to save. By the time you give up on the software and maybe consider professional help, the damage might be too severe for even them to recover much, if anything.
Wow. So using software seems like the easy, cheap option. But if the drive is clicking, you could actually be making things much, much worse, reducing your options down the line.
Precisely. For logical issues, software is great. For physical issues signaled by clicking, grinding, other weird noises, software alone is unlikely to work and, critically, can worsen the physical damage, potentially making a professional recovery impossible.
This paints a pretty clear picture of what not to do then. Freezing, opening, hitting, running software on a clicking drive, all bad ideas.
Generally, yes. For physically failing drives, those are all things to avoid.
So if all these common online fixes are risky or just plain wrong for a physically damaged drive, what should someone do? What's the reliable, expert-recommended approach?
The single most important thing to do, the absolute best first step when you suspect physical damage, especially if you hear clicking, scraping, buzzing, any unusual noise, or if the drive isn't recognized by the computer, is to stop.
Stop trying to use it.
Immediately. Power it down. Don't keep trying to access it. Don't run software on it. Don't plug and unplug it, hoping it'll magically start working. Just stop.
Okay, power down. Then what?
Then, the best course of action is to seek professional help from a specialized, reputable data recovery lab.
Not just a general computer repair shop.
Generally, no. While some repair shops might offer basic data recovery, they usually lack the specialized tools and, crucially, the clean room environment needed for complex physical recoveries. You really want a lab that focuses specifically on data recovery from damaged media.
And what makes these professional labs the best bet in these situations? What do they do differently?
Well, several things. First, they have the expertise to accurately diagnose the problem. Is it the heads, the motor, electronics? Second, they have those clean room facilities we talked about to safely open the drive without causing contamination damage.
Right, the dust thing.
Exactly. Third, they have specialized tools and equipment. Things like head stack replacement tools, firmware manipulation devices, and hardware imagers.
Imagers, what's that?
A hardware imager allows them to create a sector-by-sector clone or image of your failing drive onto a healthy drive. They often have sophisticated ways to read around bad sectors or work with drives that are barely functioning. This is crucial because they work on the clone, not your original failing drive.
So they minimize any further stress or damage to your actual drive.
Precisely. They get the raw data off your drive and onto stable media first. Only then, on that safe clone, do they use specialized software and techniques to reconstruct the file system and extract your actual file.
That sounds much safer, much more controlled.
It is. It maximizes the chances of getting your data back while minimizing the risk of making things worse. While professional recovery does cost money, compared to DIY attempts or cheap software,
Yeah.
it often represents the only real chance of getting irreplaceable data back when you're dealing with serious physical drive failure. Think of it as an investment in rescuing potentially priceless information.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So wrapping this up, the main takeaway from our deep dive today seems pretty clear. While the internet is boosting with quick fixes, when it comes to a failing hard drive, particularly one making those awful noises,
Yeah.
a lot of the popular DIY tips, freezing, opening, hitting it, even sometimes running software, can lead straight to permanent data loss.
That sums it up well. It's really a situation where caution and, frankly, professional expertise are absolutely paramount.
So when your valuable digital photos, your work documents, whatever it is that's critical to you, when that's on the line,
Erring on the side of caution, powering down the drive, and consulting with professionals who have the right tools, the right environment, and the right skills. That's almost always the wisest move if you suspect a physical drive failure.
it really makes you think, doesn't it? As a final thought for everyone listening, just take a moment to consider what digital files, what memories, or crucial information are truly irreplaceable for you.
Yeah.
Understanding the real risks involved in some of these tempting quick fix DIY attempts might just change how you'd approach that scary situation if it ever happens. It's definitely worth pondering what you could stand to lose by trying the wrong thing first.
Absolutely. Better safe than sorry when it comes to data.